Hi, this is Logan Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and the Savage Worlds Pathfinder conversion. Very, very strange, unusual beast. Let's talk about it. All right, so someone just... the Savage World creators... So Savage World is a rule system. It's really hard to explain. I don't think it's hard to explain. Savage Worlds is a system that some people like to think is kind of a light system. I think it's quite crunchy. I think the only company in the entire tabletop role-playing game industry that really understand what a light game is Fate. So Fate actually has Fate Accelerated. It's 50 pages. It's a super light, super flexible system. And then basically every other company in tabletop role-playing games, in my opinion, what they do is they're like, our game's 15% less crunchy than Dungeons & Dragons. It's light. No, it's not. Really. Fate Accelerated is a truly light, flexible, fast, beautiful game. It is one of the worst problems in all of tabletop role-playing games, the fact that so few light games exist. And, in my opinion, sadly, that there's such a small market for light games. I really wish there was an elegant, simple, fun, rules light system. I really like Index Card RPG. It really is. It's a light system, but even that, the core rulebook's 200-300 pages long. Can you say that a book that's 200 pages long is light? It's tough to say that, in my opinion. So, but this thing has come out, and it is a bizarre, strange beast. So this is Savage Worlds, which is a rule system. And then what they're going to do is they're going to convert Pathfinder into Savage World and convert Rise of the Rune Lord. Rise of the Rune Lord is one of the most famous pre-generated adventures that's ever been created. It's been massively successful for Paizo. By the way, the creators of Savage World is PEG, Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Their only real hit is Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is a system. Deadlands runs in it, and a whole bunch of other games. There's a serious number of fans for Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is very real. It's at scale. People like it. It's running. It's running on gas, right? Like it's a real system. But this is incredibly strange, right? So if you really love Pathfinder, why would you want to run Pathfinder why on earth would you want to run Pathfinder with Savage Worlds? Well, you may like the Savage Worlds rule system better. I think that maybe like a third of the people that are going to buy this game are going to do that, right? So a third of the people who are going to get this incredibly bizarre Savage Worlds Pathfinder mix. And by the way, I'm sorry if I'm saying this a little late. Today I want to explore, why on earth does this game exist? This is bizarre. I don't think Savage Worlds Pathfinder is needed. I think this is a huge waste of time for PEG and for Paizo, right? I think it's bizarre, and it makes me ask this question. Why does this exist? Okay? And I think it's worth exploring this answer, right? So why does this thing exist, right? Because, if you want to play Pathfinder, just play Pathfinder, right? So why would you convert Pathfinder to Savage World, and why would there be a market for this? Well, a third of the people are just people who love Savage Worlds. It's an existing, well-loved rule system, okay? It's unique. It's not like a lot of other games. It does give people... It's quite crunchy, in my opinion. It's not light. It's advertised as light. It's not even remotely light. But the other thing is, this isn't the first conversion for Savage World. Rifts has been converted to Savage World, and Deadlands has been converted to Savage World. There's some punk, like Spirit of the Century is another game that is in Savage World. And so you can run a lot in Savage World. I think there's like a Cyberpunk Savage World game. There's quite a bit, right? But this is really bizarre. Why? And to me, this is a journey down the rabbit hole. If you are hey, let's do this. I want to have Savage World Pathfinder, right? Why is this here, right? Because one of the things is Pathfinder is not a unique game. Pathfinder is a shaded version of Dungeons and Dragons. It's just like Pathfinder is clearly like, okay, Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition ended, 4th edition comes in, people hate 4th edition, and in order to spite Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons itself, people are like, I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons without giving you any money, right? Very, very strange. So it's really odd. So basically, you get this situation where these people are, that's another issue. A third of these people who are going to run this super bizarre Savage World Pathfinder thing is going to be people who want to run Savage World. And then I think a third of them, and we need to acknowledge this, there's a lot of people who just hate Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of Dungeons and Dragons they hate out there. Why does it exist? Well, one, it's cool to hate the big dog, right? People like a wall to push off of, and D&D serves as that. They're a wall that people can push off of. And they're like, I'm too cool for school. I don't run Dungeons and Dragons. I run other cool games. And actually, I'm in support of all tabletop role-playing games, playing games other than Dungeons and Dragons, as long as it's at a 50% ratio, right? And I'm totally not down with people running every game but D&D. I just don't support that. And the reason why is the health of the entire tabletop role-playing game industry rests on Dungeons and Dragons' shoulder. No other, right? There's no other tabletop role-playing game that's done what Dungeons & Dragons has done at this point. We don't have an industry robust enough for people to just ignore Dungeons & Dragons. We're not there. We're just not, right? And so the reality is no other game has celebrities playing it. No other game has worldwide recognition. No other game has academic acknowledgement. There's just no tabletop role-playing games that have achieved even half of the cultural achievements that Dungeons and Dragons has done. That's another, it's history, right? If you just read the history of America since 1974, you will hit Dungeons and Dragons, right? Even if you don't touch anything about gaming. Dungeons and Dragons is included in like some things that happened in the 80s, some good, some bad, right? Like there are huge celebrities who like Robin Williams, like he's a part of America. He played Dungeons and Dragons. You can't interact with American history since 1974 and not run into Dungeons and Dragons. That's not the case with any other game. It's just not, okay? So you really need to understand that. Like we need to understand tabletop role-playing games just can't go off and ignore Dungeons and Dragons. It's not healthy for the industry. It's not healthy for the hobby. It's not healthy for where we're at, okay? So why does this thing exist? 1/3 Savage World people who just love the system. 1/3 D&D haters. They exist, and we need to acknowledge that. D&D commentators need to understand that is a real force in the industry, that people just hate Dungeons and Dragons because it's on top, right? People love to hate a winner. Like, it's, haters going to hate. That saying is quite true, right? And then what is the other third of the people who are going to run this crazy, bizarre game, right? That is, I think it's just going to be like I would say that is like a catalyst group. I think it's going to be group people who, like, there might be 10 different reasons in that last third, right? But the reality is, I think this game is incredibly bizarre, and I really wish that Pinnacle Entertainment Game Group would spend time creating new worlds to play in Savage World. It seems like a huge waste to just create something that is going to allow people to play Pathfinder with a different system. The other thing is, Pathfinder is so ununique and so like, that's another reason. Sorry. So why on earth, like, the other thing is people will be like, oh, well, I want the world of Pathfinder. No, you don't. It's Galarian. It's bog standard vanilla fantasy, right? It's not, Galarian is not unique enough to build a game around. It just isn't. What's the most famous deity from Galarian? Who knows? Come on. Like, the one unique thing about Galarian is that goblins are a PC, a playable race, and goblins are quite unique in Pathfinder. That's not enough to come along and do a conversion on a game. It's a lot of wasted resources for PEG, and I think it's wasted resources for Paizo because they have to do oversight work on this, right? So one last thing is, how can this bizarre, weird, in my opinion, waste of time for two companies exist? Here's the last one. Dungeons and Dragons is such an amazing game. It has failed in some significant ways. One of the ways it's failed is Dungeons and Dragons, at the end of the day, in my opinion, is truly systematized Tolkien. Okay? So Dungeons and Dragons Worlds is a photocopy of Loader. Pathfinder is a photocopy of D&D, right? And the reality is, settings are the worst failure, in my opinion. One of the worst failures of Dungeons & Dragons. The fact that it has never been able to reach out and build its own unique, compelling world, right? That has been able to get scale and escape Loader is one of the reasons why people would be so hungry for a bog standard vanilla fantasy setting. Just like it, because Golarion is incredibly unexciting, in my opinion. And so, again, the existence of Savage World Pathfinders has everything to do with Dungeons and Dragons. It is people trying to address the failings of Dungeons and Dragons. It's completely bizarre. I think this is a waste of time for Pinnacle Entertainment Group. I think it's a waste of time for Paizo, and I really wish they were building new, compelling, exciting worlds, right? But one of the other issues that I will acknowledge is people really just want to play systematized Loader. We as a D&D community need to start to craft within the community a healthy desire to try new, exciting things and not just stay with the old things. And so I think the existence of Savage World Pathfinders comes from the failings of D&D to create compelling, original worlds that have gotten scale and prominence the way their systematized Loader has really gotten, their systematized Tolkien has gotten scale and prominence. And also, it is a failure of the D&D community and the fantasy tabletop role-playing game community to desire unique and compelling worlds, which is, we need to fix this. I think we need to all acknowledge it collectively and then begin to fix this, right? I'm not sure what the solution is, but I do know what the problem is, and that's where our solution begins. That's my opinion. Why on earth do you think this bizarre game, Savage Worlds Pathfinder, exists? How did we get here? This is strange. This would be like if Burger King said that they were going to make a Big Mac. You're like, why does anyone in the world need this? Why is this happening? I just gave you my reasons. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.